The alien general's voice quivered with a mix of disbelief and rage across the holographic interface. Colonel Marcus Thorne remained unflinching, his expression almost bored. "That's correct," Thorne replied coolly. "Is there a problem?" The alien general, hulking figure with reptilian scales and glowing yellow eyes, sneered. "Problem? You're insulting us. Do you think this is some kind of joke?" Thorne leaned back in his chair casually, inspecting his fingernails. "Not at all. You attacked our colony, broke a dozen treaties, and threatened our existence. We responded with your weakest." The general's face twisted into pure contempt. The pride of the Zarth Empire, an elite legion of warriors bred for battle, had been deployed to crush the human resistance. Yet, they had faced no legendary warriors or heroic last stands, only a mere crew that seemed like the bottom of the barrel. Yet there had been no victory. Sergeant Noah Rusty Ramirez sat on the edge of his bunk, slowly wrapping a faded bandana around his head. The fabric was worn thin, but it held more memories than anything else in his possession. He was a man in his late 40s, his once muscular frame softened by years of injury and neglect. His hair was streaked with gray. The name Rusty wasn't just a nickname, it was a fitting descriptor of his current condition. Beside him, Private Liam Carter struggled with his leg prosthesis, grunting in frustration. "Damn thing's acting up again," he muttered. The young soldier was barely out of his 20s. A roadside bomb during a peacekeeping mission had left him a shadow of the athlete he once was. Across the room, Corporal James Doc Hendrick adjusted the brace on his left arm, the one that never quite healed right after the explosion on Triton. He was in his mid-30s, a former combat medic whose hands still shook whenever he tried to hold them steady. This was Alpha Squad, a collection of what most would consider damaged goods. They had been called to serve again, not out of recognition for past glories, but because there were few others left. Ramirez glanced at the small hollow emitter on the table, showing the latest broadcast from the front lines. The news wasn't good. The Zarth were advancing, their relentless onslaught pushing deeper into human territories. But the old sergeant had seen worse, lived through worse. "Hey, Doc," Ramirez called out, breaking the silence. "How's the arm?" "Same as yesterday," Hendrick replied with a shrug. "Still attached." "Good enough," Ramirez said, standing up with a grunt. "Let's get ready. We're heading out in 10. Carter looked up, a hint of worry in his eyes. "You think we'll make a difference out there?" Ramirez paused, considering his response. He had been a soldier long enough to know that hope was a fragile thing, easily shattered by the realities of war. But he also knew that sometimes the only thing that kept a man going was the belief that he could make a difference. "All we've got to do is keep those lizard bastards busy," Ramirez said, forcing a grin. "Let the brass figure out the rest." The squad fell into a familiar routine, each man performing tasks drilled into them over the years. Their bodies were slower, their reflexes dulled by time and injury, but the muscle memory was still there. Ramirez didn't bother with an arousing speech. They didn't need one. What they needed was to survive. The transport shuttle was cramped, the air thick with the smell of sweat and burned ozone. The hum of the engines vibrated through the metal floor, a constant reminder of the impending battle. Ramirez could see the tension on their faces, the silent dread that gnawed at their minds. He had felt it himself more times than he could count. "Remember," Ramirez said, his voice cutting through the low murmur. "Stick together, watch each other's backs, and don't do anything stupid." They nodded, each man lost in his thoughts. Carter's hand drifted to his prosthetic leg. Hendrick flexed his braced arm, and Ramirez tightened the strap on his helmet. He could feel the weight of his years pressing down on him, but pushed it aside. There would be time to feel tired later, assuming there was a later. The shuttle lurched as it entered the atmosphere, the red glow of re-entry painting the interior in an ominous light. The pilot's voice crackled over the intercom with the usual warnings and updates, but Ramirez barely listened. His focus was on the mission ahead, the fight that awaited them. The ramp dropped with a hiss of hydraulic steam, revealing a desolate landscape scarred by war. Craters pockmarked the ground, twisted remnants of machinery littered the area, and the distant sound of gunfire echoed in the background. This was the front line, where the fate of humanity was being decided. Ramirez led his squad down the ramp, their boots crunching on the charred earth. They moved with the caution of veterans who knew better than to trust appearances. The Zarth were out there, watching, waiting for the right moment to strike. "Eyes open, boys," Ramirez muttered, scanning the horizon. He didn't have to tell them twice. They advanced slowly through the shattered remains of a once thriving city. The buildings were skeletal, their steel frames exposed, walls crumbling. The air was thick with dust, the sky a sickly orange from the fires that still burned. Ramirez's hand tightened on his rifle as they approached a ruined plaza. The plaza had once been a place of life, laughter, and commerce, but now it was a graveyard. The bodies of soldiers and civilians alike were strewn about, a grim reminder of what was at stake. "Hold up," Ramirez ordered, raising a clenched fist. The squad froze, senses on high alert. Ramirez could feel it, a tension in the air, a wrongness that set his instincts on edge. Then he saw them, figures moving among the rubble, slinking through the shadows. The Zarth, with their reptilian forms and predatory eyes, were closing in. They moved with a lethal grace, their weapons gleaming in the dim light. Ramirez's heart pounded, but he didn't hesitate. "Contact," he barked, raising his rifle and opening fire. The squad followed suit, their weapons lighting up the darkness with bursts of gunfire. The battle was brutal, chaotic, a fight that left no room for hesitation or mercy. Ramirez and his men fought with everything they had, their training and experience guiding them through the storm of violence. Ramirez's pulse thundered in his ears as he dropped to one knee, firing at a Zarth soldier that had appeared from behind a crumbling pillar. The reptilian warrior snarled as it crumpled to the ground, green blood splattering across the rubble. He didn't have time to savor the kill. More Zarth emerged from the shadows, their slitted eyes reflecting the flames that licked the broken cityscape. "Carter, on your left," Ramirez shouted as he spotted a Zarth sniper, taking aim. The young private spun and fired, catching the alien in the chest and sending it toppling from its perch. "Got it," Carter called back, his voice strained but steady. Ramirez quickly assessed their situation. They were outnumbered, no doubt about it. The Zarth were moving with precision, their tactics honed from countless battles across the galaxy. But Ramirez had fought these odds before. He knew his men might be slow or battered, but they were far from beaten. "Doc, watch our six," Ramirez ordered, swinging his rifle to cover another approach as Hendrik took position behind a half-collapsed wall. The medic's brace creaked as he crouched but held firm, his sharp eyes scanning for threats. The Zarth were relentless, pushing forward with a terrifying speed that seemed to defy their bulky frames. Ramirez could see them coordinating their movements, almost choreographed as they attempted to encircle the squad. "Fall back to the plaza," Ramirez barked. "We need to get out of this kill zone." They moved as one, retreating with disciplined efficiency, firing in short bursts to keep the enemy at bay. The plaza offered better cover, with the remnants of a fountain providing a central point they could defend. Ramirez's mind raced as he calculated their odds. It wasn't good, but he'd been in worse situations. The squad reached the plaza just as the Zarth closed in. Ramirez dove behind the fountain, his rifle blazing as he took down another attacker. Carter and Hendrik quickly joined him, setting up a defensive perimeter. "Ammo count," Ramirez yelled, keeping one eye on the approaching enemy. "Running low, Sarge," Carter replied, checking his magazine with a grimace. "Maybe a few clips left." "Same here," Hendrik added, his tone calm despite the chaos around them. "We're not going to hold them off for long." Ramirez knew he was right. The Zarth were pressing hard, their confidence growing with each step they took closer. "Then we make it count," Ramirez said, his voice carrying the weight of every battle he'd ever fought. "We hold this position and give those lizards a fight they'll never forget." The Zarth charged, their guttural war cries echoing through the plaza. Ramirez steadied his breathing, focusing on his training and the years of experience that had kept him alive. He squeezed the trigger, dropping another enemy, then another. For everyone that fell, two more seemed to take their place. Carter was firing furiously, his prosthetic leg locked in place as he knelt behind a chunk of debris. Hendrik was beside him, his shots methodical and precise, each one finding its mark. As the Zarth closed in, Ramirez knew this was it, the final push. If they could hold out for just a few more minutes, maybe reinforcements would arrive, maybe they'd catch a break. But the Zarth weren't giving them any time to think. One of the larger aliens lunged at Ramirez, its serrated blade slashing through the air. Ramirez barely had time to dodge the blade, which grazed his shoulder as he rolled to the side, coming up firing. "Ramirez!" Hendrik shouted. The sergeant turned just in time to see another Zarth bearing down on him. This one was faster and meaner than the last. Ramirez braced himself, raising his rifle, but the alien was too close. It knocked the weapon aside and slammed him into the ground, its weight crushing the air from his lungs. Ramirez struggled, reaching for his sidearm, but the Zartha's claws were already at his throat. A gunshot rang out, and suddenly the pressure was gone. Ramirez gasped for breath as the Zarth toppled over, a bullet hole in the side of its skull. He looked up to see Carter standing there, his hands trembling, but his aim still true. "Thanks, kid," Ramirez rasped, hauling himself to his feet. His shoulder throbbed where the blade had cut him, but he ignored the pain. "We're not done yet." The Zarth were regrouping, preparing for another assault. Ramirez could see them communicating, their slitted eyes gleaming with cruel intent. They knew they had the humans on the ropes, but Ramirez wasn't ready to roll over and die just yet. "We need to fall back again," he said, thinking fast. "There's a building on the other side of this plaza, still mostly intact. If we can get in there, we might be able to hold them off until help arrives or until we run out of ammo." Hendrik muttered agreement, and they didn't have any other options. Ramirez nodded, leading the way as they sprinted across the open ground, dodging debris and occasional stray shots. The Zarth were right behind them, closing in with every second. Ramirez felt his heart pounding in his chest but didn't let it slow him down. They reached the building just as the Zarth launched another attack. Ramirez slammed the door shut behind him, breathing hard. It wouldn't hold for long, but it would buy them a few precious moments. "We're going to make it," Ramirez said, though he wasn't sure who he was trying to convince, his men or himself. In the distance, above the roar of battle, Ramirez thought he heard the faint sound of engines approaching. The walls of the building shook as the Zarth slammed against the door, their furious roars echoing through the cramped space. Ramirez scanned the dimly lit room, quickly taking stock of their surroundings. The structure was barely standing, cracks ran through the walls, and rubble cluttered the floor. There was little cover, and the only other exit was a narrow window leading to a steep drop. "Carter, take position by the window," Ramirez ordered, his voice steady despite the chaos. "Doc, you're with me. We hold them off as long as we can." Carter nodded, his face pale but determined, as he limped over to the window and aimed his rifle at the street below. Ramirez knew the young private was running on fumes, his energy nearly spent, but there was no room for hesitation now. Hendrik and Ramirez positioned themselves near the door, weapons at the ready. The Zarth were relentless, their claws scratching and tearing at the wood, splintering it with every hit. It was only a matter of time before they broke through. "Any sign of those reinforcements?" Hendrik asked, his voice tight with tension. Ramirez shook his head. "Not yet. We're on our own for now." The door burst open with a deafening crash, and the Zarth poured in, a wave of snarling, hissing fury. Ramirez and Hendrik opened fire, their rifles blazing as they fought to keep the aliens at bay. The air was thick with the smell of burning ozone and the acrid stench of alien blood. Ramirez moved with precision born of years on the battlefield, each shot deliberate, each movement calculated. But even as he fought, he could feel the weight of exhaustion pressing down on him. His body ached, his wounds throbbed, and his vision blurred at the edges. He wasn't sure how much longer he could hold out. Hendrik fared no better. The medic's brace was slowing him down, his injured arm struggling to keep up with the pace of the fight. But he fought on, his determination unwavering even as the Zarth closed in around them. "Fall back," Ramirez shouted, realizing they couldn't hold the door any longer. He and Hendrik retreated deeper into the room, taking cover behind a collapsed section of the ceiling. Carter fired from the window, his shots ringing out in quick succession, but the Zarth kept coming, their numbers seemingly endless. "They just don't stop, do they?" Carter muttered, his voice tinged with despair. "They won't stop until we're all dead," Ramirez replied grimly. "But we're not going down without a fight." The Zarth advanced, their claws gleaming in the dim light, their eyes burning with savage intent. Ramirez could feel the cold grip of fear clutching his heart, but he refused to let it show. If this was how it ended, he would go down fighting, just as he had always done. "Get ready," Ramirez yelled as a Zarth charged. The three soldiers braced themselves, their fingers tightening on their triggers. The aliens were almost upon them, their jaws open wide in anticipation of the kill. Then, just as all hope seemed lost, the roar of engines filled the air, growing louder with every second. Ramirez's heart leaped as he recognized the unmistakable hum of human dropships. The dropships descended from the sky, their engines burning bright. Reinforcements arrived, soldiers pouring out of the dropships, their weapons ready to finish the fight. Ramirez felt a surge of hope as the reinforcements joined the fray, their arrival turning the tide decisively in humanity's favor. The Zarth, now outnumbered and outgunned, began to retreat, their earlier confidence shattered by the very soldiers they had dismissed as weak. The aliens, once so certain of their victory, were now a broken, scattered force. The pride of the Zarth Empire had been crushed. As the last of the Zarth fell, Ramirez lowered his rifle, his chest heaving with exhaustion. The battle was over. They had done it. They had held the line against all odds. A young lieutenant from the reinforcements approached, his face a mixture of awe and respect. "Sir," he said, saluting, "we heard what happened. I can't believe you held out against the Zarth with just us." "Believe it, son," Ramirez interrupted with a tired but satisfied grin. "We might not be the best, but we get the job done." The lieutenant nodded, clearly impressed. "We'll take it from here, Sergeant. You and your men have earned some rest." Ramirez nodded, finally allowing himself to relax. He looked around at his squad, Carter, his legs shaking but still standing tall. Hendrik, his brace hanging loose but his spirit unbroken. They had survived not because they were the strongest, but because they had fought with everything they had left. As the sun began to rise over the battlefield, Ramirez allowed himself a moment of peace. They had been the weakest sent to hold the line when no one else could, and they had done more than just survive. They had won. The battlefield was eerily silent as the sun began to rise. The once chaotic scene was now littered with the fallen remnants of the Zarth Empire's assault and the scars of a battle fiercely fought. Alpha Squad and the reinforcements worked tirelessly to clear the debris, attend to the wounded, and gather the dead. The smoke of the fires was beginning to dissipate, revealing the full extent of the destruction. Sergeant Ramirez leaned against a ruined wall, his breath coming in labored gasps. His injuries had been treated by the medics, but the exhaustion was palpable. The young lieutenant from the reinforcements approached him, a datapad in hand. "Sergeant Ramirez," the lieutenant began, his voice respectful but tinged with the formality of someone who wasn't quite sure how to address the veteran. "The higher-ups want a full report on what happened here. They're calling it a miracle that you and your squad managed to hold off the Zarth for as long as you did." Ramirez sighed, feeling the weight of his years and the heavy toll of the battle. "I can give you a report," he said, "but it won't be pretty. We took heavy losses, and we're all pretty beat up. But we did what we had to do." The lieutenant nodded, clearly understanding the gravity of the situation. "We're going to need your input to piece together what happened. The brass will want to know how the Zarth managed to push so far before we intervened." Ramirez glanced back at his squad. Carter was sitting on a crate, his leg propped up and his eyes closed, trying to rest. Hendrik was talking with a medic, the brace on his arm now replaced with a more makeshift splint. The men were exhausted but alive, and that was what mattered. "I'll give you everything I can," Ramirez said finally. "But first, let's make sure my men get the rest they need." The lieutenant agreed, and Ramirez turned back to his squad. He had seen them through the worst of the battle, and now he was determined to see them through the aftermath. The briefing room was a stark contrast to the chaos of the battlefield. It was clean, sterile, and the air was filled with a tense silence as senior officers gathered around a large holographic table. Ramirez and his squad were seated off to the side, their faces reflecting the weariness of their ordeal. General Carter, a stern woman with a no-nonsense attitude, addressed the room. "Ladies and gentlemen, what we have here is both a tragedy and a testament to the strength of our soldiers. Alpha Squad managed to hold off the Zarth advance long enough for reinforcements to arrive." She paused, her gaze sweeping over the room, then turned her attention to Ramirez. "Sergeant Ramirez, I understand you have insights into how the Zarth were able to breach our defenses and how we can prevent this from happening again." Ramirez straightened, his fatigue momentarily forgotten as he prepared to speak. "Yes, ma'am. The Zarth used advanced tactics we hadn't seen before. They coordinated their attacks with precision, exploiting weaknesses in our defenses and using psychological warfare to unnerve our troops. They're not just fighting for conquest, they're fighting to break our will." General Carter nodded, taking notes on a datapad. "And what do you suggest we do to counter these tactics?" "We need to adapt our strategies," Ramirez replied. "We need to focus on intelligence and countermeasures. The Zarth have advanced technology and tactics, and we need to match them with our own strategies. Training for psychological resilience is crucial, too. We can't afford to buckle under their pressure." The general nodded thoughtfully. "We'll take that into consideration. Thank you, Sergeant. You and your squad have shown remarkable bravery. You will be commended for your actions, but I also want to ensure you all get the recovery time you need. The days following the battle were a blur of recovery and rehabilitation. The medics worked tirelessly to treat the injured, while soldiers cleaned up and assessed the damage. Alpha Squad was given priority treatment, their injuries tended to with the best medical resources available. Ramirez found himself in a makeshift medical bay, his shoulder bandaged and his body exhausted. He lay on a cot, staring at the ceiling, lost in thought. The pain was a constant reminder of the cost of war, but it was also a reminder of the resilience of his school. Carter and Hendrik were in adjacent cots, the young private asleep and the medic working on a new splint for his arm. Ramirez's thoughts drifted back to the battle, to the moment when victory had seemed impossible. They had held the line, but at what cost? The squad had survived, but the scars of the battle would remain long after the physical wounds healed. The door to the medical bay opened, and General Carter entered. She approached Ramirez with a serious expression. "How are you holding up, Sergeant?" "Getting by," Ramirez replied, forcing a small smile. "I've had worse." The general nodded. "I wanted to thank you in person. Your squad's bravery and tenacity have made a significant impact. We've already started implementing some of the changes you suggested. It's clear that your experience is invaluable." Ramirez nodded, his smile fading. "We did what we had to do, but there's still a lot of work to be done." General Carter agreed. "Indeed, the Zarth will be back, and we need to be ready. But for now, take the time you need to recover. We'll need you back at full strength when the next wave comes." As the general left, Ramirez closed his eyes, letting the exhaustion take over. The battle had been won, but the war was far from over. He and his squad had proven their worth, but the real challenge lay ahead. They would face it, as they always had, with grit, determination, and the unbreakable bond forged in the fires of combat. Weeks passed, and the once battered city began to show signs of recovery. Rebuilding efforts were underway, and the military was focused on strengthening its defenses and improving its strategies. Alpha Squad, despite their injuries, were put back to work, not just recovering but also training new recruits and refining their tactics. Sergeant Ramirez found himself back in the training facility, leading exercises and imparting the hard-earned wisdom from their recent battle. The recruits were eager but green, and Ramirez took it upon himself to instill in them the importance of vigilance, adaptability, and resilience. "Listen up," Ramirez barked, his voice echoing through the training hall. "What you see here is just a simulation. It's meant to prepare you for the real deal. In combat, you don't get second chances. You either succeed or you don't. And if you don't, you pay the price." The recruits nodded, their expressions a mix of determination and apprehension. Ramirez could see the same spark of resolve in their eyes that he had seen in his own squad years ago. It was a new generation, and it was their turn to step up. As the training continued, Ramirez noticed Carter and Hendrik working with the new soldiers. Carter was teaching tactics and strategy, his experience evident in his every move. Hendrik was focusing on medical training, ensuring the new recruits were prepared for the inevitable injuries that came with combat. One evening, after a particularly grueling day of training, Ramirez found himself alone on the observation deck overlooking the city. The rebuilding efforts were visible below, and he could see the progress being made. It was a small, hopeful sign amidst the ongoing conflict. Doc Hendrik joined him, taking a seat beside him. "You ever think about retirement, Sarge?" he asked, his voice thoughtful. Ramirez chuckled softly. "Sometimes, but then I remember why I'm here. We're fighting for something bigger than ourselves. For the people who can't fight back. That's what keeps me going." Hendrik nodded, understanding. "Yeah, me too. Even with all the scars and the pain, there's a reason we're out here." They watched in silence as the sun set over the city, the horizon glowing with the promise of a new day. The battle had been won, but the war was far from over. Ramirez knew that the Zarth would return, but he was ready. He and his squad had proven their strength and their resolve. They would face whatever came next together. The relative peace was shattered by a new threat emerging on the horizon. Intelligence reports indicated that the Zarth were not only regrouping, but had also formed alliances with other alien factions. The once unified Zarth Empire was now a coalition of various alien species, each with its own agenda and strategies. General Carter called an emergency briefing to address the new situation. Ramirez and his squad, still in recovery but active in their roles, attended the briefing with a sense of urgency. The Zarth have been busy, the general said, her voice grave. They've managed to forge alliances with several other alien races. This new coalition is more powerful and more dangerous than we anticipated. We're facing a multi-front war, and we need to be prepared. Ramirez exchanged worried glances with Carter and Hendrik. The stakes had just been raised, and the upcoming battles will be more complex and more challenging. We need to reevaluate our strategies and strengthen our alliances, the general continued. We'll be deploying specialized teams to gather more intelligence and disrupt the coalition's plans. Alpha Squad will be part of this new initiative. Ramirez nodded, accepting the new challenge. Understood, ma'am. We're ready. As the briefing concluded, the weight of the new mission settled heavily on Ramirez's shoulders. The battle they had fought was just the beginning. The coalition of alien forces was a formidable threat, and humanity needed every advantage it could get. As the squad prepared for their new mission, Ramirez found himself reflecting on the battles fought and the friends lost. They had faced overwhelming odds before and emerged victorious. Now, with new threats on the horizon, they would need to be more determined than ever. The fight was far from over, but Ramirez and his squad were ready to face whatever came next. They had proven their strength and resilience, and they would continue to fight for the future of humanity. Together, they would stand against the darkness and ensure that hope would prevail. In the days following the emergency briefing, Alpha Squad was thrust into a new phase of the war. The coalition of alien forces had sparked a flurry of activity across military and intelligence channels. The higher-ups knew they needed more than just brute force. They needed to outthink and outmaneuver their enemies. General Carter assigned Alpha Squad a critical mission to seek out and establish alliances with other human factions and sympathetic alien groups who were also fighting against the new. In the days following the emergency briefing, Alpha Squad was thrust into a new phase of the war. The coalition of alien forces had sparked a flurry of activity across military and intelligence channels. The higher-ups knew they needed more than just brute force. They needed to outthink and outmaneuver their enemies. General Carter assigned Alpha Squad a critical mission to seek out and establish alliances with other human factions and sympathetic alien groups who were also fighting against the new coalition. The goal was to build a network of support that could help in resisting the multi-front assault. The squad's first destination was the outer reaches of human space, where rumors of a resistance movement had been circulating. The ship that carried them was a stealth vessel designed for covert operations. The journey was long and fraught with tension, but the men of Alpha Squad were used to that. Sergeant Ramirez, Carter, and Hendrik reviewed the mission parameters in their cramped quarters. Carter, who had taken to analyzing intelligence reports, pointed out key locations and possible allies. Our first contact is a group of resistance fighters on the edge of the Southor system, he said, tracing a path on the holographic map. They've been holding out against the Zarth and could be valuable allies. Ramirez nodded, his gaze steady. Let's hope they're willing to work with us. We need every advantage we can get. The ship exited hyperspace and approached a small, rugged space station orbiting a barren planet. The station, known as Haven's End, was a known hotspot for renegades and rebels. As the stealth craft docked, Ramirez and his squad prepared to disembark, ready for whatever lay ahead. The docking bay of Haven's End was dimly lit and cluttered with cargo and equipment. As Alpha Squad stepped off the ship, they were met by a small contingent of rebels, their faces weathered by constant struggle. The leader of the group, a grizzled veteran named Kellen Drake, stepped forward. "Welcome to Haven's End," Drake said, his voice rough but welcoming. "I hear you've got some business with us." Ramirez extended a hand, his expression serious. "Sergeant Ramirez, we're here to discuss potential cooperation. We're facing a new threat, a coalition of alien forces, including the Zarth. We need allies, and your group might be just what we're looking for." Drake looked them over, assessing their sincerity. "We've heard about the coalition. It's not just talk, we're feeling the pressure ourselves. But we've been fighting for a long time, and we don't just join up with anyone." Carter stepped in, presenting a datapad with intelligence on the coalition's movements and the impact on various sectors. "We have detailed information on the enemy's strategies and operations. We're hoping to combine our resources and expertise to turn the tide." Drake studied the data, his brow furrowing as he processed the information. "You've done your homework. All right, we're willing to discuss an alliance. But we need to see if your people can back up their talk. We got a mission coming up, and it's a big one." Ramirez raised an eyebrow. What kind of mission? Drake's expression hardened. We're planning an assault on a Zarth supply depot. It's heavily guarded, but if we can take it out, it would be a significant blow to their operations. We could use your help, and if you prove yourselves, we'll consider formalizing an alliance. The assault on the Zarth supply depot was a grueling test of Alpha Squad's skills and endurance. The depot was located on a remote, heavily fortified planet with thick atmosphere and rugged terrain. The combined force of Haven's End's rebels and Alpha Squad descended onto the surface, preparing for a fierce engagement. The night before the operation, Ramirez gathered his squad for a final briefing. This isn't just about taking out a supply depot. It's about proving ourselves and making a statement. We need to hit hard and fast, and we need to be prepared for heavy resistance. The rebels, equipped with a mix of scavenged and custom-built gear, moved with practiced efficiency. They had their own objectives and strategies, but the coordination with Alpha Squad was crucial. As the strike force approached the depot under the cover of darkness, the air was tense with anticipation. The assault began with a barrage of suppressive fire from orbital dropships and artillery strikes. Alpha Squad led the charge, breaching the outer defenses with explosive charges and heavy weapons. The Zarth defenders, initially caught off guard, quickly regrouped and mounted a fierce counterattack. The battle was chaotic and intense. Ramirez, Carter, and Hendrik fought alongside the rebels, their combined experience proving invaluable. Carter's prosthetic leg moved with surprising agility, and Hendrik's medical expertise ensured that the wounded received immediate attention. As the fight progressed, the rebels demonstrated their own formidable skills. They moved with a grim determination, their tactics complementing Alpha Squad's approach. The combined forces managed to push deeper into the depot, overcoming wave after wave of Zarth defenders. In the heart of the battle, Ramirez and Drake fought side by side. The supply depot's central control room was their primary objective. They fought their way through corridors of wreckage and alien technology, finally reaching the control room where they planted explosives to cripple the depot's operations. The detonation was a massive explosion that shook the entire depot. As the fireball illuminated the night sky, Ramirez and his squad, along with the rebels, fought their way out, their mission accomplished. The Zarth forces were left in disarray, their supply lines severely disrupted. The aftermath of the assault was a mix of triumph and exhaustion. The rebels of Haven's End celebrated their victory, their morale boosted by the successful operation. Alpha Squad, though weary and battered, felt a sense of accomplishment. They had proven themselves as allies and had made a significant impact against the Zarth coalition. Back on the space station, Drake approached Ramirez and his squad. "You've earned our respect, Sergeant. The way you fought, your coordination, it's clear you're not just talking big. We're ready to formalize the alliance." Ramirez nodded, a tired but genuine smile on his face. "Glad to hear it. We've got a long road ahead of us, but if we work together, we can make a difference." The formalization of the alliance was marked by a small but significant ceremony. Representatives from Haven's End and the human military, along with Alpha Squad, signed a pact of cooperation. It was a symbol of unity and a testament to the new coalition of forces working against the Zarth and their allies. As the sun set over Haven's End, Ramirez looked out over the station's viewport, reflecting on the recent battles and the alliances formed. The war was far from over, but there was a renewed sense of hope and determination. The fight against the Zarth coalition was just beginning, and the challenges ahead would test their resolve. But with new allies and strengthened bonds, Alpha Squad and their newfound partners were ready to face whatever came next. They had survived the darkest days, and now they stood on the brink of a new dawn. Together, they would continue to fight for a future where humanity and its allies could stand strong against the encroaching darkness. The newfound alliance between Alpha Squad and the rebels of Haven's End set the stage for a larger strategy. General Carter, now more determined than ever, began coordinating with other factions and forces to build a broader coalition against the Zarth. The goal was to create a unified front that could effectively counter the multi-front war they were facing. Alpha Squad was tasked with a new mission: to travel to various human colonies and allied systems to secure their support and coordinate joint operations. The mission was both diplomatic and strategic, requiring careful negotiation and effective leadership. Their first stop was the human colony of New Arcadia, a thriving world known for its technological advancements and strategic importance. The colony's governor, Elaine Harper, was a key figure in the effort to build a united front. Governor Harper greeted Ramirez and his squad with a mix of skepticism and hope. "We've heard about your recent successes as sergeant," she said, her tone measured. "But New Arcadia has its own challenges. We're dealing with internal dissent and resource shortages. Why should we commit to this coalition?" Ramirez, aware of the delicate nature of their mission, took a deep breath. "Governor Harper, we're not asking you to commit blindly. We're offering a partnership that could benefit all of us. The Zarth coalition is a growing threat, and if we don't act now, we risk losing everything. We need to unite our strengths to stand a chance." Harper considered his words, her gaze shifting to the holographic projections of the Zarth coalition's movements. "I appreciate your honesty, Sergeant. We'll need to see concrete plans and assurances before making any commitments." Carter stepped forward, presenting detailed plans and potential strategies for joint operations. "We've already seen the impact of cooperation in our recent assault. By pooling our resources and intelligence, we can create a more effective resistance. We're prepared to provide support and share our technology." The governor reviewed the information, nodding slowly. "All right, I'll agree to a provisional alliance. We'll join the coalition on the condition that we see clear benefits and mutual support." With New Arcadia's provisional support secured, Alpha Squad continued their mission to build the coalition. Their next destination was a space station in the Orion system, where they were to meet with a group of alien factions who had expressed interest in opposing the Zarth. The space station, known as the Concordia, was a neutral ground where representatives from various alien species gathered to discuss political and military matters. The meeting was crucial for forging alliances with non-human races who had their own grievances against the Zarth. As Ramirez and his squad arrived at Concordia, they were greeted by representatives from several alien races. The atmosphere was tense, with long-standing rivalries and suspicions simmering beneath the surface. The negotiations were challenging, requiring careful diplomacy and strategic bargaining. Ramirez and Carter worked tirelessly to address concerns and build trust among the diverse factions. They highlighted the common enemy in the Zarth and the benefits of a unified front. After intense discussions, a tentative agreement was reached. The alien factions agreed to support the coalition, provided that their specific interests and concerns were addressed. It was a fragile alliance, but it represented a significant step forward. With the coalition taking shape, Alpha Squad prepared for their next mission, a coordinated strike against a key Zarth stronghold. The operation would involve forces from the human military, Haven's End, and their new alien allies. The coordinated strike was a massive undertaking, with forces from multiple factions coming together for a decisive operation. The Zarth stronghold, located on a heavily fortified planet, was a critical target for the coalition's efforts. The assault was meticulously planned, with each faction contributing their unique strengths. Alpha Squad, now more experienced and battle-hardened, played a central role in executing the operation. The mission was complex, involving simultaneous attacks on multiple fronts to overwhelm the Zarth defenses. As the coalition forces launched their assault, the battle was fierce and chaotic. The Zarth defenders fought with relentless determination, but the combined strength of the coalition proved overwhelming. Alpha Squad and their allies pushed forward, engaging in intense combat and strategic maneuvers. Ramirez, Carter, and Hendrick fought with renewed vigor, their coordination with the Allied forces proving crucial. The battle tested their skills and resilience, but they remained focused on their objective. The assault culminated in a dramatic final push, with the coalition forces breaching the Zarth stronghold and crippling their operations. The victory was hard-fought, but it marked a significant turning point in the war. In the wake of the successful assault, the coalition forces regrouped and began assessing the aftermath. The Zarth stronghold had been severely damaged, and their operations were significantly disrupted. The victory provided a much-needed boost to morale and demonstrated the power of unified resistance. As Alpha Squad returned to Haven's End, they were met with a hero's welcome. The successful operation had solidified their reputation and strengthened the bonds between the coalition's members. The fight was far from over, but the tide had turned in humanity's favor. General Carter, now more confident in the coalition's prospects, addressed the assembled forces. "Today's victory is a testament to our unity and determination. We've shown that we can overcome the greatest challenges when we stand together. But we must remain vigilant. The Zarth will not surrender easily." Ramirez and his squad, though weary, felt a renewed sense of purpose. They had faced overwhelming odds and emerged victorious. Their efforts had helped forge a coalition capable of standing against the Zarth and securing a future for humanity and its allies. As the sun rose over the battlefield, Ramirez looked out over the horizon, reflecting on the journey they had undertaken. The war was far from over, but with the coalition's strength and determination, there was hope for a brighter future. Together, they would continue to fight, knowing that their sacrifices had paved the way for a new dawn. The victory at the Zarth stronghold had indeed bolstered morale, but beneath the surface of triumph, tension simmered. The coalition, while formidable, was not without its internal conflicts. Different factions, each with their own agendas and suspicions, were beginning to show signs of strain. Sergeant Ramirez, now a key figure in the coalition's operations, sensed that not everything was as harmonious as it seemed. The success of their joint assault had made them a target not only for the Zarth but for potential traitors within their ranks. General Carter called for a strategic meeting to assess the next steps and ensure that their recent victory was not undermined by internal discord. The meeting was held in a secure conference room aboard the Haven's End. Representatives from various factions, including human and alien leaders, were present. As Carter outlined the plans for consolidating their gains and pushing forward, Ramirez's attention was drawn to a subtle but noticeable exchange between two of the alien representatives. Their whispered conversation and furtive glances suggested that something was amiss. After the meeting, Ramirez approached Carter. "General, I think we may have a problem. I noticed some suspicious behavior during the briefing. There could be elements within our coalition who are not as committed to our cause as they should be." Carter nodded, his expression grave. "I've had the same concerns. We've seen signs of discontent and rivalry among some of the factions. It's crucial that we address these issues before they escalate. I want you to investigate further and find out if there's any truth to these suspicions." Ramirez agreed, knowing the importance of maintaining unity within the coalition. He began his investigation discreetly, speaking with trusted allies and observing interactions between the various factions. His suspicions were soon confirmed when he uncovered evidence of covert communications between certain representatives and known Zarth sympathizers. The betrayal was more than just a political maneuver. It had real implications for their ongoing operations. The compromised representatives were leaking strategic information to the Zarth, putting their planned offensives at risk. Ramirez reported his findings to Carter, who immediately convened a covert team to address the threat. As the investigation unfolded, Ramirez and his team uncovered a complex network of espionage and betrayal within the coalition. The Zarth sympathizers had managed to infiltrate key positions, and their activities were jeopardizing the security and effectiveness of the coalition's operations. Ramirez, Carter, and a small team of trusted allies developed a plan to expose the traitors and neutralize the threat. The operation required careful planning and coordination, as they needed to act swiftly to prevent further damage. The team, led by Ramirez, conducted a series of covert operations to gather evidence and identify the traitors. They used a combination of surveillance, intelligence gathering, and direct confrontation to unravel the network of betrayal. The task was dangerous, as they had to navigate the treacherous political landscape while ensuring that their actions did not inadvertently undermine the coalition's stability. The traitors, when confronted, were surprisingly unrepentant. Their motives were varied. Some sought personal power or revenge, while others were ideologically aligned with the Zarth. The exposure of their actions led to a tense and dramatic confrontation within the coalition's ranks. General Carter, having been briefed on the situation, addressed the coalition members. "We've uncovered a network of betrayal that sought to undermine our efforts and weaken our unity. We cannot afford to let these actions divide us. We must remain vigilant and committed to our cause." The traitors were detained, and their networks dismantled. The incident served as a sobering reminder of the complexities and dangers of coalition warfare. It reinforced the need for constant vigilance and the importance of trust among allies. With the threat of internal betrayal addressed, the coalition began the process of rebuilding and strengthening their unity. The recent events had highlighted the need for improved communication and cooperation among the diverse factions. General Carter and his team organized a series of diplomatic and strategic meetings to rebuild trust and reinforce the coalition's goals. They focused on fostering a sense of shared purpose and mutual respect among the members. Ramirez played a crucial role in these efforts, leveraging his experience and relationships with various factions to bridge gaps and address concerns. His dedication to the coalition's success and his ability to navigate the complex dynamics of the alliance were instrumental in maintaining cohesion. One of the key initiatives was a series of joint training exercises and strategy sessions. These efforts were designed to improve coordination and understanding among the different factions, enhancing their ability to work together effectively in future operations. During one of these sessions, Ramirez reflected on the progress made and the challenges ahead. The coalition had come a long way, but the war with the Zarth was far from over. The recent betrayal had reinforced the need for vigilance and unity, but it also highlighted the strength and resilience of their alliance. As the coalition forces continue their preparations and planning, Ramirez and his squad remained focused on their mission. They knew that the road ahead would be difficult, but they were determined to see it through to the end. The coalition's efforts to consolidate their gains and prepare for future operations were interrupted by a new and unexpected development. The Zarth, having regrouped and reassessed their strategy, were preparing a massive offensive aimed at striking a decisive blow against the coalition. The intelligence reports were alarming. The Zarth were mobilizing their forces for a coordinated assault on several key locations, including human colonies and strategic military positions. The scale and scope of the planned offensive were unprecedented, and it posed a grave threat to the coalition's hard-won gains. General Carter convened an emergency briefing to address the situation. The atmosphere was tense as the leaders and representatives from the various factions gathered to discuss their response to the looming threat. "We're facing a critical juncture," Carter said, his tone grave. "The Zarth have launched a major offensive, and we need to respond with everything we've got. We must protect our key positions and prepare for a large-scale battle." The briefing focused on developing a comprehensive defensive strategy and coordinating the efforts of the various factions. Ramirez and his team were assigned to spearhead a critical operation aimed at intercepting and disrupting the Zarth's advance. The mission was complex and dangerous. It involved coordinating with multiple factions, deploying forces to key locations, and implementing defensive measures to protect vulnerable targets. The operation required precise timing and coordination to effectively counter the Zarth offensive. The coalition's defensive preparations culminated in the Battle of Dawn, a massive and decisive conflict that would determine the fate of their alliance and their ability to resist the Zarth's advance. The battle unfolded across multiple fronts, with coalition forces engaged in fierce combat against the Zarth. The scale of the conflict was immense, with space battles, planetary assaults, and skirmishes occurring simultaneously. The coalition's forces, though battle-hardened, faced a formidable and relentless enemy. Alpha Squad, leading one of the key defensive operations, played a crucial role in the battle. Their mission was to protect a critical military installation and repel the Zarth assault. The fighting was intense, with waves of enemy troops and advanced alien technology challenging the coalition's defenses. Sergeant Ramirez, General Carter, and their team fought with unwavering determination. The battle was a test of their skills, resilience, and strategic acumen. The stakes were high, and the outcome would have far-reaching consequences. As the battle raged on, the coalition forces managed to hold their ground and inflict significant damage on the Zarth. The combined efforts of the allied factions, their unity, and their resolve proved to be a decisive factor in repelling the Zarth offensive. The Battle of Dawn marked a turning point in the war. The coalition's successful defense demonstrated their strength and ability to counter the Zarth's aggression. It was a hard-fought victory that bolstered their morale and solidified their position. In the aftermath of the Battle of Dawn, the coalition forces regrouped and began assessing the results of their hard-fought victory. The battle had been a grueling and intense experience, but it had showcased the strength and effectiveness of their alliance. General Carter addressed the coalition members, acknowledging their courage and dedication. "Today, we've proven that we can stand against the Zarth and defend our positions. But we must not become complacent. The war is far from over, and we must remain vigilant and prepared for whatever comes next." Ramirez, reflecting on the battle and its impact, felt a renewed sense of purpose. The victory at Dawn had been a significant achievement, but was only one step in a larger struggle. The coalition's unity and determination would be tested further as they continue their fight against the Zarth. The aftermath of the battle also brought an opportunity for reflection and growth. The coalition leaders and representatives met to discuss their experiences, address any lingering issues, and strengthen their commitment to their shared goals. Ramirez and his squad, though exhausted, were filled with a sense of accomplishment. They had faced formidable challenges and emerged victorious, but they knew that the road ahead would be long and difficult. The war with the Zarth was far from over, and their mission was far from complete. As they prepared for the next phase of their operations, Ramirez and his team remained focused on their objectives. They were committed to continuing their fight, knowing that their sacrifices and efforts were making a difference in the struggle for a better future. Just as the coalition began to regroup and consolidate their gains, a new and unexpected threat emerged. A previously unknown faction, distinct from the Zarth and their allies, began making its presence known. This new threat was highly advanced and exhibited capabilities that surpassed anything the coalition had encountered before. The intelligence reports on this new faction were scarce and fragmented, but they suggested a highly advanced and aggressive force that had begun targeting coalition supply lines and outposts. The sudden appearance of this new enemy added a layer of complexity to an already challenging conflict. General Carter convened an emergency council with the coalition leaders to address the situation. The briefing was tense, with the gravity of the new threat weighing heavily on everyone present. "We have a new player in the field," Carter announced. "This faction is highly advanced and poses a significant threat to our operations. We need to understand who they are, what they want, and how we can counter their actions." The coalition leaders agreed to prioritize the investigation of this new threat while maintaining their ongoing efforts against the Zarth. Ramirez and his team were assigned to lead a special reconnaissance mission to gather intelligence on the unknown faction and assess their capabilities. The mission required navigating through hostile territory, conducting covert operations, and analyzing any available data on the new enemy. Ramirez and his squad worked tirelessly, uncovering crucial information that would help the coalition understand and counter the emerging threat. As the coalition grappled with a new threat, they also began to see the fruits of their efforts in building alliances and strengthening their position. The experiences of the war and the challenges faced had forged stronger bonds among the coalition members. General Carter and his team focused on reinforcing the coalition's unity and resilience. They worked to address the internal issues that had previously arisen, ensuring that the alliance remained cohesive and effective in the face of new challenges. The coalition's successes, both in battle and in diplomacy, had helped to build a sense of shared purpose and commitment among the diverse factions. The progress made in forging alliances and consolidating their position provided a foundation for continued efforts against the Zarth and the new threat. Ramirez and his squad, having played a crucial role in the recent victories, continued to contribute to the coalition's efforts. Their experiences and expertise were invaluable in navigating the complexities of the ongoing conflict. The coalition's resolve was stronger than ever. They remained committed to their mission and to the fight for a better future. As they prepared for the next phase of their operations, they did so with a renewed sense of purpose and determination. The war was far from over, but the coalition's unity and resilience provided hope for a brighter future. Together, they faced the challenges ahead, knowing that their combined strength and resolve would see them through to the end. The new threat posed by the enigmatic faction, now known as the Draxan, was unlike anything the coalition had faced. Their advanced technology and strategic acumen had already made a significant impact, disrupting supply lines and striking at key locations. Ramirez and his team had gathered crucial intelligence on the Draxan, revealing that their operations were being directed from a heavily fortified space station known as the Hidden Fortress. The Draxan's leadership was rumored to be located there, making it a strategic target for the coalition. General Carter, recognizing the importance of neutralizing this threat, formulated a daring plan. "We need to strike at the heart of the Draxan operation. The Hidden Fortress is our primary target. If we can disable their command structure, we might be able to turn the tide." The plan involved a high-risk assault on the Hidden Fortress. The operation required a blend of stealth, precision, and brute force. Ramirez and Alpha Squad were assigned to lead a special team tasked with infiltrating the fortress, gathering intelligence, and, if possible, executing a strike against its core systems. As the team prepared for the mission, they were briefed on the fortress's defenses, which included a network of advanced sensors, automated turrets, and a formidable Draxan military presence. The challenge was immense, but the potential rewards were worth the risk. The operation was codenamed Shadow Strike, and it began with a series of coordinated attacks designed to distract and weaken the Draxan defenses. Coalition forces launched diversionary strikes against nearby targets, drawing the Draxan's attention away from the Hidden Fortress. Ramirez and his team, equipped with stealth technology and advanced reconnaissance tools, infiltrated the perimeter of the fortress. Their approach required navigating through treacherous terrain and bypassing a series of sophisticated security measures. The team worked with precision, utilizing their skills to avoid detection and make their way into the heart of the fortress. Inside, they discovered a complex network of corridors and control centers. The fortress was a hive of activity, with Draxan personnel bustling about in sophisticated systems humming with energy. The team moved stealthily, avoiding patrols and securing critical access points. Their objective was to reach the central command hub, where they could gather crucial intelligence and, if feasible, plant explosive charges to cripple the fortress's operations. The stakes were high, and every decision had to be made with careful consideration of the potential consequences. The infiltration team reached the central command hub, a heavily fortified area protected by advanced security systems. Ramirez and his squad encountered fierce resistance as they breached the inner sanctum, but their training and experience allowed them to overcome the obstacles. Inside the command hub, they discovered valuable intelligence on the Draxan strategic plans, including details about their future operations and their command structure. This information was crucial for the Coalition, as it provided insights into the Draxan's objectives and weaknesses. Ramirez's team planted the explosive charges, setting a timer to ensure they had enough time to escape before the detonation. Their mission was nearly complete, but as they prepared to withdraw, they encountered a formidable Draxan commander who had been alerted to their presence. The confrontation was intense, with the Draxan commander displaying impressive combat skills and tactical prowess. The team engaged in a fierce battle, utilizing every advantage they had to overcome the enemy. Despite the challenges, they managed to defeat the commander and complete their mission. As the team made their way out of the hidden fortress, the explosives they had planted detonated with a massive explosion. The fortress, once a bastion of Draxan power, was left in ruins. The destruction of the command hub and critical systems dealt a severe blow to the Draxan operations. The impact of the attack reverberated throughout the Draxan forces. The loss of their central command structure created confusion and disorder among their ranks. Coalition forces seized the opportunity to launch a series of coordinated offensives against the now disorganized Draxan forces. General Carter and the Coalition leadership were briefed on the success of Operation Shadow Strike. The intelligence gathered from the fortress provided valuable insights into the Draxan's plans and capabilities, allowing the Coalition to adjust their strategies and mount a more effective response. The fall of the hidden fortress marked a significant turning point in the conflict with the Draxan. The Coalition's successful strike demonstrated their ability to counter the new threat and provided a morale boost for their forces. In the aftermath of the battle, the Coalition faced the task of rebuilding and reassessing their strategies. The fall of the hidden fortress had weakened the Draxan, but the Coalition needed to consolidate their gains and prepare for the next phase of the conflict. General Carter and his team focused on strengthening the Coalition's position and ensuring that the recent successes were not undermined by complacency. They conducted a thorough review of their strategies and operations, identifying areas for improvement and adjusting their plans accordingly. Ramirez and his squad, having played a key role in the recent victories, were involved in the rebuilding efforts. Their experiences and insights were valuable in shaping the Coalition's future actions and ensuring that they remained effective in the face of ongoing challenges. The Coalition's leaders also worked to address any lingering issues and strengthen their alliances. The recent events had highlighted the importance of unity and cooperation, and they remained committed to fostering a sense of shared purpose among the diverse factions. With the immediate threat of the Draxan somewhat mitigated, the Coalition enjoyed a brief period of relative calm. The fall of the hidden fortress had provided a strategic advantage, but the war was far from over. During this time, the Coalition focused on fortifying their positions, conducting joint training exercises, and preparing for potential future threats. The experience gained from recent battles was used to refine their tactics and strategies. Ramirez and his team continued their efforts to support the Coalition's objectives. They participated in training sessions, briefed new recruits, and worked to maintain the high level of readiness required for the ongoing conflict. The calm period also provided an opportunity for reflection and preparation. The Coalition's leadership knew that the enemy would not remain idle, and they remained vigilant in their efforts to anticipate and counter any potential developments. As the Coalition prepared for the next phase of the conflict, they recognized the importance of forging new alliances and strengthening existing ones. The recent battles had demonstrated the value of cooperation and the strength that came from a united front. General Carter and his team initiated diplomatic efforts to build relationships with previously unaligned factions and strengthen their position in the galaxy. They sought to expand their coalition and create a broader alliance capable of addressing the diverse challenges they faced. Ramirez and his squad played a crucial role in these efforts, leveraging their experiences and connections to facilitate negotiations and build trust with new allies. Their dedication to the coalition's success and their ability to navigate complex diplomatic situations were instrumental in achieving their goals. The new alliances brought additional resources, support, and expertise to the coalition. This strengthened their position and provided a more solid foundation for their ongoing efforts against the Zarth and any other emerging threats. As the coalition moved forward with renewed strength and unity, they were confronted by echoes of their past. Old conflicts and unresolved issues resurfaced, reminding them of the complex history that had shaped their current situation. The coalition's leaders and members had to confront and address these lingering issues to maintain their focus and effectiveness. They worked to reconcile past differences and ensure that historical grievances did not hinder their progress. Ramirez and his team, having experienced their own share of challenges and conflicts, played a role in facilitating these reconciliations. Their efforts were aimed at fostering understanding and unity, ensuring that the coalition remained cohesive and focused on their shared objectives. The process of addressing these echoes from the past was not easy, but was essential for the coalition's continued success. By confronting and resolving these issues, they were able to move forward with a stronger sense of purpose and commitment. With the past addressed and the coalition's alliances solidified, the path forward became clearer. The coalition prepared for the next stages of their campaign, using the lessons learned from previous battles and the strength gained from new alliances. General Carter and his team focused on strategic planning and coordination, ensuring that their efforts were aligned and effective. They continued to adapt their strategies and tactics based on the evolving situation and the insights gained from their recent experiences. Ramirez and his squad, now seasoned veterans of the conflict, remained dedicated to their mission. They continued to support the coalition's efforts and prepare for the challenges ahead. Their commitment and resilience were vital to the coalition's ongoing success. The future remained uncertain, but the coalition's strength, unity, and determination provided hope for a better outcome. They faced the challenges ahead with confidence, knowing that their combined efforts and resolve would see them through to the end. As the war continued, the coalition remained steadfast in their mission. They were prepared to face whatever came next, knowing that their unity and commitment were their greatest assets in the struggle for a better future. As the coalition continued to solidify its position, tensions began to rise within the ranks and among their new allies. The pressure of the ongoing conflict and the complexities of managing a broad alliance took a toll on relationships and morale. General Carter called a high-level meeting to address these rising tensions. Our recent victories have put us in a strong position, but we must manage our alliance carefully. Discontent and disagreements can be as dangerous as the enemy itself. The meeting focused on addressing specific issues that had arisen, including disagreements over resource allocation, strategic priorities, and operational coordination. Ramirez and his squad, having navigated their own internal struggles, were asked to contribute their insights and help mediate the disputes. Despite their efforts, it was clear that the strain of war was starting to fray the unity that had been hard-earned. The coalition leadership worked to address these issues through diplomacy, communication, and, when necessary, firm decision-making. Just as the coalition was working to stabilize its internal dynamics, a new and unforeseen threat emerged. Reports came in about a previously unknown faction called the Shiral, who were rumored to possess advanced technology and a significant military force. General Carter convened an emergency briefing to discuss the implications of this new threat. We cannot ignore the Shiral. They appear to be a highly advanced and dangerous faction. We need to understand their intentions and prepare for potential conflict. Ramirez and his squad were tasked with conducting reconnaissance to gather information on the Shiral. They embarked on a mission to investigate the new threat, exploring planets and systems that were believed to be associated with this enigmatic faction. The team discovered that the Shiral had established a series of hidden bases and research facilities. Their technology was indeed advanced, and their military capabilities were formidable. The Shiral's goals and motivations remained unclear, but it was evident that they posed a significant risk to the coalition's objectives. In response to the emerging threat from the Shiral, General Carter decided to pursue a dual approach, bolstering the coalition's military readiness while also exploring diplomatic options. He believed that engaging the Shiral in dialogue might help to prevent a full-scale conflict. Ramirez and his team were assigned to assist in diplomatic efforts, working with coalition negotiators to open communication channels with the Shiral. The negotiations were delicate and fraught with uncertainty, as the Shiral were known for their secrecy and reluctance to engage with outsiders. The diplomatic efforts involved several high-stakes meetings and negotiations, with the coalition attempting to understand the Shiral's demands and objectives. Ramirez's team played a crucial role in facilitating these discussions, providing insights from their reconnaissance and helping to build a foundation of trust. Despite their best efforts, the negotiations were challenging. The Shiral's responses were often cryptic and non-committal, leaving the coalition with little concrete information about their intentions. The possibility of conflict with the Shiral remained a looming concern. The situation took a dramatic turn when Ramirez's team uncovered a major revelation about the Shiral. Their investigation revealed that the Shiral were not just another faction seeking power. They were part of a larger intergalactic organization with ambitions that extended far beyond the coalition's immediate concerns. The Shiral's true objective was to establish a new order across the galaxy, leveraging their advanced technology and military strength to reshape the political landscape. Their plans involved the destabilization of existing power structures and the subjugation of various factions. General Carter and the coalition leadership were alarmed by this revelation. The Shiral are not just a threat to us, they're a threat to the entire galaxy. We need to develop a comprehensive strategy to counter their ambitions and protect our allies. The coalition's response involved a combination of military readiness and strategic alliances. They sought to strengthen their position by forging new partnerships and reinforcing existing ones. The goal was to create a united front capable of countering the Shiral's ambitions and maintaining stability. With the Shiral's intentions clear, the coalition prepared for an inevitable confrontation. The coalition's strategy focused on a multifaceted approach, combining military might with diplomatic efforts to isolate the Shiral and disrupt their plans. Ramirez and his squad were once again on the front lines, participating in a series of coordinated operations designed to weaken the Shiral's position and prevent their expansion. The battles were intense and challenging, as the Shiral's technology and tactics proved to be formidable. The coalition launched a series of offensives against key Shiral installations, aiming to disrupt their operations and reduce their influence. Ramirez and his team played a critical role in these operations, utilizing their expertise and experience to navigate the complexities of the battlefield and achieve their objectives. The battles for supremacy were hard-fought, with both sides demonstrating their capabilities and resolve. The coalition's efforts were met with stiff resistance, but their determination and strategic approach allowed them to gain ground and make significant progress. The conflict with the Shiral reached a critical turning point as the coalition launched a decisive operation aimed at crippling the Shiral's central command. The operation, known as Operation Eclipse, was designed to deliver a blow that would undermine the Shiral's ability to coordinate their efforts and maintain their offensive. Ramirez and his team were assigned to a key role in Operation Eclipse, tasked with infiltrating a heavily fortified Shiral command center and gathering intelligence that would enable the coalition to deliver a crippling strike. The operation was complex and dangerous, requiring precise execution and coordination. The team faced numerous challenges as they navigated through Shiral defenses and security measures. Their mission was fraught with risk, but the potential rewards were substantial. The success of Operation Eclipse hinged on the team's ability to gather crucial intelligence and execute their plan with precision. The stakes were high, and the outcome of the operation would have far-reaching consequences for the coalition's efforts against the Shiral. The culmination of Operation Eclipse saw the coalition launching a final all-out assault on the Shiral forces. The objective was to deliver a decisive blow that would cripple the Shiral's ability to continue their expansion and consolidate their control. Ramirez and his squad, along with coalition forces, engaged in a fierce and relentless battle against the Shiral. The conflict was intense, with both sides demonstrating their full capabilities and pushing their forces to the limit. The final assault involved a coordinated effort, combining ground and space operations to target key Shiral assets and command centers. The coalition's strategy focused on overwhelming the Shiral with a multi-pronged attack, aimed at breaking their defenses and disrupting their operations. The battle was brutal and costly, but the coalition's determination and strategic advantage allowed them to gain the upper hand. Ramirez and his team fought with unwavering resolve, contributing to the success of the operation and the eventual defeat of the Shiral forces. In the wake of the final assault, the coalition began to assess the aftermath of the conflict. The defeat of the Shiral marked a significant turning point, but the cost of the battle was considerable. General Carter and the coalition leadership conducted a thorough evaluation of the campaign, reviewing the successes and challenges encountered throughout the conflict. The lessons learned from the engagement with the Shiral were used to refine strategies and prepare for future challenges. Ramirez and his squad, having played a crucial role in the conflict, took time to reflect on their experiences and the impact of their efforts. They had faced tremendous challenges and demonstrated extraordinary resilience, contributing to the overall success of the Coalition's mission. The aftermath of the conflict brought a period of rebuilding and recovery. The Coalition worked to address the needs of their forces and allies, focusing on restoring stability and preparing for any emerging threats. As the dust settled, Ramirez and his team found a moment of peace amidst the ongoing efforts. They had faced adversity and emerged victorious, but the future remained uncertain. The Coalition remained vigilant and prepared, ready to confront whatever challenges lay ahead. The journey of Ramirez and his squad had been one of hardship and triumph, and their contributions had left a lasting impact on the course of the conflict. Their story was a testament to the strength and determination of those who fought for a better future. The Coalition's victory over the Shiral marked a new chapter for the galaxy. The immediate focus shifted to rebuilding war-torn regions and reconciling with former adversaries. The task was monumental. Cities lay in ruins, infrastructure was devastated, and the scars of conflict ran deep. General Carter initiated a comprehensive recovery plan that included rebuilding cities, restoring essential services, and providing aid to displaced populations. The Coalition also worked on fostering diplomatic relations with factions that had been neutral or previously opposed. The goal was to ensure long-term stability and prevent future conflicts. Ramirez and his squad were assigned to help oversee the recovery efforts in key areas. Their experience in managing crisis situations made them invaluable in coordinating relief operations and rebuilding efforts. They worked closely with local leaders, engineers, and aid organizations to address immediate needs and lay the foundation for future growth. As the reconstruction progressed, Ramirez and his team reflected on the legacy of the conflict. The war had left deep marks on those who fought and those who lived through it. Soldiers, civilians, and leaders alike grappled with the cost of their sacrifices and the lessons learned. A series of memorials and commemorative events were organized to honor those who had fallen and to acknowledge the bravery of those who had persevered. Ramirez took part in these events, sharing stories of valor and sacrifice, and paying tribute to the heroes who had given their lives for the cause. The legacy of the war was also reflected in the changes it brought about. The conflict had prompted advancements in technology, military strategy, and diplomatic practices. The Coalition used these lessons to strengthen its position and to ensure that the sacrifices made were not in vain. With the immediate aftermath of the war addressed, the Coalition turned its attention to establishing new alliances and strengthening existing ones. The objective was to create a network of cooperative factions and to build a unified front that could address future challenges. Diplomatic missions were undertaken to forge new partnerships and to solidify agreements with key factions. Ramirez and his team played a role in these efforts, leveraging their experience and connections to facilitate negotiations and build trust. The diplomatic landscape was complex, with varying interests and agendas among the different factions. The Coalition's approach involved careful negotiation, compromise, and strategic positioning to achieve a balance of power and mutual cooperation. Just as stability seemed to be taking hold, intelligence reports surfaced about a new, emergent threat, a faction known as the Varkith. The Varkith were rumored to be an aggressive and expansionist group with ambitions that rivaled those of the Shiral. General Carter convened a strategic meeting to address the potential danger posed by the Varkith. "We've worked hard to establish peace and rebuild what was lost. We cannot afford to let a new threat derail our progress." The Coalition decided to gather more information on the Varkith and to prepare a contingency plan in case of an escalation. Ramirez and his squad were once again called upon to conduct reconnaissance and assess the Varkith's capabilities and intentions. Ramirez and his team embarked on a mission to investigate the Varkith, aiming to gather intelligence on their operations, strengths, and weaknesses. They infiltrated Varkith-controlled territories, using their skills and experience to navigate the hostile environment and avoid detection. The Varkith proved to be a formidable adversary, with advanced technology and a well-organized military structure. Their tactics and strategies were sophisticated, presenting a significant challenge for the Coalition. During their reconnaissance, Ramirez's team uncovered critical information about the Varkith's plans and objectives. The Varkith aimed to expand their territory and influence through a combination of military aggression and political manipulation. With the information gathered about the Varkith, the Coalition began preparing for the possibility of conflict. The focus was on bolstering defenses, strengthening alliances, and developing strategies to counter the new threat. General Carter emphasized the need for readiness and adaptability. We've faced challenges before, and we've overcome them. The key is to remain vigilant and prepared for whatever comes our way. Ramirez and his squad were involved in planning and training exercises designed to prepare for potential engagements with the Varkith. The goal was to ensure that the coalition was ready to respond swiftly and effectively to any threat. The uneasy peace was shattered when the Varkith launched a series of coordinated attacks against coalition territories. The initial clashes were intense and brutal, with the Varkith demonstrating their military prowess and determination. The coalition mobilized its forces to respond to the attacks, engaging the Varkith in a series of skirmishes and battles. Ramirez and his team were once again on the front lines, fighting to repel the Varkith's advances and protect their positions. The conflict with the Varkith was different from previous engagements. Their tactics were unpredictable, and their forces were well-equipped and highly motivated. The battles were fierce, with heavy casualties on both sides. As the conflict with the Varkith escalated, the coalition realized the need for strategic adaptation. The Varkith's tactics required a new approach, and the coalition had to adjust its strategies to counter their unconventional methods. General Carter led efforts to analyze the Varkith's tactics and develop countermeasures. The coalition implemented new strategies and operational plans to address the evolving threat. Ramirez and his squad played a key role in testing and refining these strategies through field operations. The adaptation process was ongoing, with the coalition continuously learning from each engagement and adjusting its approach accordingly. The goal was to stay one step ahead of the Varkith and to maintain the initiative in the conflict. The conflict with the Varkith reached a turning point during a major battle that took place on a strategically significant planet. The battle was a crucial opportunity for the coalition to deliver a decisive blow and to shift the momentum in their favor. Ramirez and his team were involved in a critical operation to seize a key Varkith stronghold and disrupt their command structure. The operation required precise execution and coordination, with the objective of weakening the Varkith's ability to continue their offensive. The battle was intense and challenging, but the coalition's efforts paid off. The seizure of the Varkith stronghold dealt a significant blow to their operations and provided a crucial advantage to the coalition. With the turning point achieved, the coalition focused on consolidating its gains and working towards a resolution of the conflict with the Varkith. Diplomatic efforts were intensified to explore options for peace and to negotiate terms that would ensure long-term stability. General Carter and coalition leaders engaged in negotiations with Varkith representatives, seeking to reach an agreement that would end hostilities and address the underlying issues. The negotiations were complex and required careful diplomacy and compromise. Ramirez and his team continued to support the peace process, providing insights and assistance as needed. The goal was to secure a lasting resolution and to pave the way for a stable and peaceful future. The peace negotiations with the Varkith culminated in a historic agreement that marked the end of hostilities and the beginning of a new era of cooperation and stability. The agreement outlined terms for demilitarization, territorial adjustments, and mutual cooperation. The coalition and the Varkith committed to working together to rebuild and address common challenges. The agreement also included provisions for ongoing dialogue and collaboration to prevent future conflicts. Ramirez and his squad, having played a crucial role in the conflict and the peace process, were recognized for their contributions. Their experiences and sacrifices had helped shape the outcome of the conflict and the future of the galaxy. As the galaxy moved into a new era of cooperation and reconstruction, Ramirez reflected on the journey and the lessons learned. The road ahead was filled with opportunities and challenges, but the resilience and determination of those who had fought for peace would guide the way. With a peace agreement signed, efforts turned to rebuilding relationships and integrating former adversaries into a new cooperative framework. The coalition's focus shifted to fostering mutual understanding and collaboration between different factions. In the wake of the Varkith conflict, reconciliation initiatives were launched to address grievances and promote healing. Community forums, joint projects, and cultural exchanges were organized to build bridges and foster a sense of unity. Ramirez and his squad were involved in these initiatives, leveraging their experience and relationships to facilitate dialogue and cooperation. They worked alongside Varkith representatives and other factions to address the issues arising from the conflict and to lay the groundwork for a stable future. Integrating former adversaries into a cooperative framework presented significant challenges. Differences in culture, politics, and priorities required careful negotiation and compromise to ensure a smooth transition to a new era of cooperation. The coalition implemented a series of policies and programs designed to address these challenges. Efforts included joint security arrangements, shared economic projects, and collaborative research initiatives. The goal was to create a framework where former enemies could work together for mutual benefit. Ramirez's team played a crucial role in these integration efforts, providing support and guidance as different factions navigated the complexities of their new relationships. Their experience in managing crisis situations and building trust proved invaluable in facilitating successful integration. As integration efforts progressed, new alliances began to take shape. The coalition, along with the Varkath and other factions, worked together to address shared challenges and to seize new opportunities for growth and development. Joint ventures and collaborative projects emerged, focusing on areas such as technology, trade, and exploration. These new alliances fostered a sense of shared purpose and created a foundation for long-term cooperation. Ramirez and his squad continued to support these efforts, participating in various collaborative projects and initiatives. Their work helped strengthen the bonds between different factions and contributed to the overall success of the new alliances. With stability restored and alliances strengthened, the coalition turned its attention to exploration and expansion. The focus was on discovering new worlds, exploring unknown territories, and forging new relationships with previously uncontacted species. The exploration initiative was a collaborative effort, involving scientists, diplomats, and explorers from different factions. The goal was to expand the horizons of the galaxy and to build new connections that would contribute to the ongoing growth and prosperity. Ramirez and his team were involved in the early stages of the exploration initiative, providing support and security for exploratory missions. Their experience in navigating complex environments and managing potential threats was invaluable in ensuring the success of these missions. As the exploration initiative progressed, reports began to surface about a new, potentially hostile force operating in the unexplored regions of the galaxy. The new threat, known as the Drakari, was rumored to be a highly aggressive and technologically advanced species. General Carter convened a strategic meeting to assess the potential danger posed by the Drakari. The coalition needed to determine the nature of this new threat and to develop strategies to address it. Ramirez and his squad were once again called upon to conduct reconnaissance and gather intelligence on the Drakari. Their mission was to assess the capabilities and intentions of this new threat and to prepare for any potential confrontations. Ramirez and his team embarked on a mission to investigate the Drakari, aiming to gather as much information as possible about their operations, technology, and strategies. The Drakari were known for their secrecy and advanced capabilities, making the mission challenging and risky. The team infiltrated Drakari-controlled territories, using their skills and experience to gather intelligence without detection. They encountered advanced technology and sophisticated defenses, highlighting the Drakari's potential as a serious threat. The information gathered during the mission revealed that the Drakari were indeed a formidable adversary. Their technology was highly advanced, and their military tactics were aggressive and well-coordinated. With intelligence gathered on the Drakari, the coalition began preparing for the possibility of conflict. The focus was on bolstering defenses, developing countermeasures, and preparing for potential engagements with the Drakari. General Carter emphasized the need for readiness and adaptability. We've faced challenges before, and we've overcome them. We need to be prepared for whatever the Drakari might throw at us. Ramirez and his squad were involved in developing new strategies and training exercises designed to prepare for potential confrontations with the Drakari. Their experience and insights were crucial in ensuring that the coalition was ready to respond effectively. The uneasy peace was disrupted when the Drakari launched a series of coordinated attacks against coalition outposts and exploratory missions. The initial engagements were intense and demonstrated the Drakari's advanced capabilities and aggressive tactics. The coalition mobilized its forces to respond to the Drakari's attacks, engaging in a series of battles and skirmishes. Ramirez and his team were once again on the front lines, fighting to defend their positions and counter the Drakari's advances. The conflict with the Drakari was challenging, with their advanced technology and tactics presenting a significant challenge. The battles were fierce and required quick thinking and adaptability from the coalition forces. As the conflict with the Drakari continued, the coalition realized the need for strategic adaptation and countermeasures. The Drakari's tactics required a new approach, and the coalition had to adjust its strategies to counter their advanced technology and aggressive tactics. General Carter led efforts to analyze the Drakari's tactics and develop countermeasures. The coalition implemented new strategies and operational plans to address the evolving threat. Ramirez and his squad played a key role in testing and refining these strategies through field operations. The adaptation process was ongoing, with the coalition continuously learning from each engagement and adjusting its approach accordingly. The goal was to stay one step ahead of the Drakari and to maintain the initiative in the conflict. The conflict with the Drakari reached a turning point during a major battle on a strategically significant location. The battle was a crucial opportunity for the coalition to deliver a decisive blow and shift the momentum in their favor. Ramirez and his team were involved in a critical operation to seize a key Drakari stronghold and disrupt their command structure. The operation required precise execution and coordination, with the objective of weakening the Drakari's ability to continue their offensive. The battle was intense and challenging, but the coalition's efforts paid off. The seizure of the Drakari stronghold dealt a significant blow to their operations and provided a crucial advantage to the coalition. With the turning point achieved, the coalition focused on consolidating its gains and working towards a resolution of the conflict with the Drakari. Diplomatic efforts were intensified to explore options for peace and to negotiate terms that would ensure long-term stability. General Carter and coalition leaders engaged in negotiations with Drakari representatives, seeking to reach an agreement that would end hostilities and address the underlying issues. The negotiations were complex and required careful diplomacy and compromise. Ramirez and his team continued to support the peace process, providing insights and assistance as needed. The goal was to secure a lasting resolution and to pave the way for a stable and peaceful future. The peace negotiations with the Drakari culminated in a historic agreement that marked the end of hostilities and the beginning of a new era of cooperation and stability. The agreement outlined terms for demilitarization, territorial adjustments, and mutual cooperation. The coalition and the Drakari committed to working together to rebuild and address common challenges. The agreement also included provisions for ongoing dialogue and collaboration to prevent future conflicts. Ramirez and his squad, having played a crucial role in the conflict and the peace process, were recognized for their contributions. Their experiences and sacrifices had helped shape the outcome of the conflict and the future of the galaxy. As the galaxy moved into a new era of cooperation and reconstruction, Ramirez reflected on the journey and the lessons learned. The road ahead was filled with opportunities and challenges, but the resilience and determination of those who had fought for peace would guide the way. As the galaxy entered a period of rebuilding and renewal, Ramirez and his team took time to reflect on their journey and the legacy they had created. Their experiences in the conflicts with the Shiral, the Varkath, and the Drakari had shaped their lives and left a lasting impact on the galaxy. Memorials and commemorative events continued to honor those who had fallen and to celebrate the achievements of those who had persevered. Ramirez and his squad participated in these events, sharing their stories and paying tribute to the heroes who had made a difference. The legacy of their service was not just in the battles they fought, but in the peace they had helped to create. Their efforts had contributed to a more stable and cooperative galaxy, and their experiences served as a reminder of the importance of resilience, determination, and collaboration. As they looked to the future, Ramirez and his team remained committed to their mission of building a better galaxy. Their journey was far from over, but they faced it with hope, courage, and a sense of purpose, knowing that their legacy would continue to inspire future generations. As the galaxy transitioned into a new era of peace and cooperation, efforts were made to cultivate a new generation of leaders and soldiers who would carry forward the lessons and values of those who had fought for stability. Training programs were established to mentor young recruits and prepare them for the challenges of the future. These programs emphasized not only combat skills but also diplomacy, strategy, and the importance of collaboration among different factions. Ramirez and his squad were involved in these programs, sharing their experiences and providing guidance to the new generation. They served as mentors and role models, helping to shape the future of the galaxy's military and diplomatic efforts. With peace largely established, the focus shifted to exploring new frontiers and expanding the reach of the coalition. The exploration initiative, which had been briefly overshadowed by conflicts, resumed with renewed vigor. New missions were launched to chart unexplored regions and establish contact with unknown civilizations. The goal was to continue expanding the coalition's knowledge and influence while fostering positive relationships with newly discovered species. Ramirez and his team were assigned to oversee and support these exploratory missions, applying their experience to ensure that new encounters were managed smoothly and diplomatically. The coalition's expansion efforts included a significant emphasis on diplomacy. Building relationships with newly discovered civilizations required careful negotiation and cultural sensitivity. Diplomatic teams were formed to engage with these new species, seeking to establish mutually beneficial agreements and alliances. Ramirez and his squad assisted in these efforts, using their experience to navigate complex negotiations and build trust. Their work helped lay the foundation for lasting partnerships and contributed to the overall success of the coalition's expansion efforts. As the coalition's influence grew, so did the complexity of its relationships with various factions and civilizations. The balance of power in the galaxy was constantly shifting, requiring ongoing adjustments and adaptations. Ramirez and his team found themselves frequently involved in managing these changes, ensuring that the coalition maintained stability and fostered positive relationships. They worked to address emerging issues and challenges, adapting their strategies as needed. The shifting balance was a constant reminder of the dynamic nature of galactic politics and the importance of remaining vigilant and adaptable. With the coalition's expansion and increasing influence, new threats began to emerge. Not all factions were pleased with the changes, and some sought to challenge the coalition's dominance. Reports of dissident groups and rogue factions surfaced, indicating potential instability and conflict. The coalition's security forces, including Ramirez and his team, were tasked with investigating and addressing these threats. The emergence of new threats tested the coalition's resilience and required careful management to prevent escalation and maintain peace. Internal conflicts within the coalition posed additional challenges. Disagreements over policy, resource allocation, and strategic priorities created tensions among different factions. Ramirez and his squad were called upon to mediate these disputes and work towards resolving conflicts. Their experience in handling complex situations and fostering cooperation was crucial in managing internal tensions. Efforts were made to address the root causes of these conflicts and to ensure that the coalition remained united in its goals and mission. As the galaxy faced new challenges, the echoes of past conflicts remained relevant. The lessons learned from previous battles continued to shape strategies and decisions. Ramirez and his team frequently reflected on their experiences and the impact they had made. Their insights and memories served as a valuable resource in navigating current challenges and ensuring that past mistakes were not repeated. The echoes of the past provided perspective and guidance, reminding the coalition of the importance of resilience, unity, and vigilance. In addition to managing threats and conflicts, the coalition pursued a quest for innovation. Advances in technology and strategy were essential for maintaining a competitive edge and addressing emerging challenges. Research and development initiatives were launched to explore new technologies and improve existing systems. The coalition invested in innovation to enhance its capabilities and ensure continued success. Ramirez and his team supported these initiatives, providing input based on their field experiences and helping to test and refine new technologies. The legacy of those who had fought for peace and stability continued to play a significant role in shaping the galaxy's future. Memorials, educational programs, and historical records preserve the stories and contributions of the past. Ramirez and his squad took part in efforts to honor and remember the legacy of their predecessors. They participated in ceremonies, shared their stories, and ensured that the lessons of the past were passed on to future generations. The role of legacy was a reminder of the sacrifices made and the importance of preserving the values and lessons learned through years of conflict and cooperation. As the galaxy moved forward into a new era, the future appeared bright with the promise of continued peace, cooperation, and exploration. The coalition's efforts to build a stable and prosperous future were beginning to bear fruit. Ramirez and his team continued to serve with dedication, contributing to the ongoing success of the coalition's mission. They faced new challenges with the same resilience and determination that had guided them through previous conflicts. The new dawn represented the culmination of years of effort and sacrifice, and it brought with it the hope of a future where the lessons of the past would guide the galaxy towards a better and more unified future.